guess we can get started. One of the questions I saw on the Twitter post was asking about the team members being anonymous, and that's not intentional. So I'm pretty sure we're all fully doxxed. It's just we don't have a meet the team page, and we don't have pictures of ourselves and things like that. I think that's something that needs to change because we're a legit company and doing legit things. Why not be proud to represent the team? And that's also why we chose to do something like this, was just to see what questions the community had, because there's some things that can be very easily overlooked. So with that, I'm Tyler. I do marketing and business development for Amun, and I came recently from QuickSwap about a couple months ago. I did listings there, and really what excited me about Amun was how large the index tokens are in traditional finance, and just like how that can relate to crypto. And maybe we should probably explain a little bit what Amun is. But James, would you want to do that and introduce yourself?
Oh, he's gone.
Okay. Do you want to go quick, Carson?
Sure, I can introduce myself. So I'm Carson Brown. I'm a product manager at Amun on our tokens platform team, but I've been pretty involved in the tokens process for a while now. Yeah, I guess it's a quick intro on me. I'll pass it off to Jack.
Sure, I'll go next. Hey everyone, my name is Jack Forlines. I'm the product manager for the tokens. So Carson and I work very closely together. He covers the platform, I cover the tokens themselves, but obviously there's a lot of crossover with that. So we work pretty closely together. And then we've got the mighty team behind us, Green, Tyler, James, all supporting us and helping to lead biz dev efforts. But I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
All right, Korean.
Sure, you guys have all heard me on Discord or Telegram. My name's Crane. I'm the community manager. And I think enough said about me.
Awesome. Since you guys are in the audience, I think the best thing would just be, what questions do you have before we get to the pre-scripted questions from Twitter? So if you want to come up and speak, just raise your hand. See, Harsha.
Okay, I figured out my voice.
Oh, there we go, James.
Yeah, I had push to talk to enable it, and I'm like, nothing's happening.
Yeah, I had the same thing, but I didn't know what button, so I shut it off.
Hey guys, I'm James. I joined Amun almost a year ago now. I came from ARK Invest. Got to see all the amazing things that ETFs could do. Tyler just called them traditional finance tokens, ETFs. That was a great experience. And when Henny approached me, CEO, one of the co-founders, to work on tokens here, I'd quit my job and I didn't have any plans. I just wanted to learn crypto on my own. And I thought I can learn so much better with a talented team that's building products that people want, and everything just felt right. I'm very happy to join. And yeah, I work with everyone on building token products and trying to, I think there's a couple of us in the community trying to build the definitive kind of on-chain index provider for crypto. I think that's going to be a $1 trillion plus opportunity, and that's why I joined.
And you're also a part-time Twitter influencer. You're
I'm
massive
also a
follower.
influencer.
Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Edmund, you're the first one up. Do you have any questions or comments?
More a comment. Just that obviously I come from Relay Chain, so we're personally just very excited about Amun in general because a lot of the upcoming index is a lot of what we've been pitching for our own value proposition. So when we see a product like Amun and you talk towards the big gas tokens and these big L1 tokens, right? It gets us as a product very excited because it validates what we've been saying for the value proposition for quite some time, that there's going to be a demand for long-term holding and long-term position building of a lot of the L1 tokens, for example. It's why we have literally built our bridging infrastructure and bridging messaging around it. And for us, it's just exciting to see your products start really building around it and generating excitement around it, because it's the kind of portfolio I try to build. I think a lot of us are long crypto. Bull and bear aside, I think for the most part, HODL tends to win if you believe and play into the right protocols and the right tokens. So again, from that perspective, the L1 index is something that definitely personally gets me very excited, and then also validates Relay and our bridging strategy a little bit too. So it's wearing a couple hats on this stage right now, sure, but I just want to say that we're personally quite excited to see this come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to join because the L1 token just makes so much sense. But since the tokens are split up on their blockchains, it's obviously very hard unless you do some kind of synthetic product. But people aren't into that. How can we do fully backed index token of the large layer ones? And we looked around at all different blockchains and what has liquidity, what doesn't. And it seems QuickSwap on Polygon has the most liquidity in these layer one tokens, and a majority are from Relay. Thanks for setting that up, and we're really looking into building this using the Relay tokens, and I hope we can work together.
Well, there's the reason we saw, you and I have obviously talked quite a bit about, hey, we're like seeing a lot of buzz around this token, or we're seeing a lot of buzz around this token. Like, how can we start getting liquidity? And we have noticed definitely a demand for certain users to stay in certain ecosystems. So you have your Polygon users that really just enjoy the Polygon interfaces, dexes, etc., and that's where they stay put. But they still want to have exposure to different varieties of the other L1s. You might have an AVAX maxi that's going to live and breathe in AVAX, but they still really, or I'm sorry, doesn't necessarily, the AVAX token maxi, not necessarily the network maxi. So they really want to have exposure to it, but they don't want to leave Polygon, for example. So just having exposure all in one place. Again, it's something that I personally will invest in because it's something that excites me, and it's the type of crypto investing I do. And to your point, having it all in one place also means less oracles, less risk, I assume. Lots of things that make it easy for people to quote unquote ape into and to diversify their own portfolios in a single, not necessarily a single click manner, but an easy product.
Yeah, and there's definitely booms and busts with all the layer ones. Just a year ago, probably Binance Smart Chain had over 90% of the non-Ethereum TVL, and now there's many chains larger than Binance Smart Chain. So next year, who knows what's going to be on top? The largest one today, the Solana or the Polygon, might be way smaller than it is, and there might be even a brand new layer one or layer two that takes the cake. With the layer one strategy that we'll put out, it's just going to track that. So yeah, we're really excited.
Maybe it's, since we jumped into it, maybe it's good to just give new folks who joined a quick overview of what we're doing with L1 or what we're even talking about. As you may or may not know, we have launched a number of index tokens through Amun with the goal of basically providing the easiest overall investment vehicles for different blockchains and blockchain ecosystems. So we launched our first product for Ethereum, capturing the top 8 DeFi tokens. That project is called Defi. We follow that with a token for the Polygon ecosystem centered on Matic, as well as the top projects. That one's called Pico. That was launched, I think, Q3 or 4 of last year. And just this month, we launched our first index token covering Solana and its ecosystem with 30% SOLI, 30% kind of Solana, the core token by 𝕋𝕚𝕞𝕖, and the rest with the key projects. That project is our third token and our first non-EVM or Ethereum virtual machine-based token. If you zoom out, kind of the overall strategy we're taking at Amun is to provide per L1 blockchain-based index products. Spiritually, these are very similar to ETFs. If you invest in, let's say, if you're a global investor and you want to invest in the US, you would buy the SPY, the S&P 500 index. There's many available ETFs covering Europe. If you want to just invest in Brazil or Japan, there are ETFs for those too. So you can take these very specific points of view, and there are many products serving those things, so you don't have to like dig through every Brazilian petrochemical company or Japanese shoemaker. And our philosophy so far has been to basically provide that kind of region-specific coverage, but instead of regions, different blockchains. We're still looking at kind of these thematic ideas, other chains like Phantom, Avalanche, very interesting to us. But one idea that I think has caught everyone's attention is, what if we, instead of go region and deep into the ecosystems, go horizontally across all the L1 blockchains? Right now, many blockchains are competing for mind share and wallet share. Ethereum is very expensive, so everyone has different trade-offs with transaction speed and decentralization and UX, and it's a very vibrant ecosystem. And a lot of people have made good money rotating between L1 seasons. For people who are not so active and chasing down every L1 and every narrative and reading every blog, I think there's great appeal for just like a token that indexes across the L1 base layer tokens. So something that includes Ethereum, Solana, AVAX, kind of the core current narratives, as well as the more growth-orientated projects or younger projects like Phantom, and maybe even stuff on Cosmos. The idea is, this could act like the S&P 500, but for blockchains by capturing kind of the core L1 technology or the L1 tokens. And of course, the L1 tokens accrue value from all the protocols that's built on top of that chain. So it's a very diverse and broad coverage. I think it's probably the best way to have total exposure to what's happening in crypto as opposed to very point narrative by narrative exposure, which gets you in all these turf wars with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it gets confusing and nasty really soon. That's the core idea. We have two index concepts built around this. One is something we're just calling a total blockchain index, covering the L1 tokens, probably weighed by a market cap, maybe modified by liquidity. Very simple, very direct exposure. Another one is like a growth version where we look for L1 blockchains that has the highest rate of growth. And the most sensitive variable for growth for L1 blockchains is really just TVL, the total value locked in those chains. And the idea of this one is to specifically analyze which have the highest growth week on week or month on month, and then weigh it based on how fast it's growing. So the fastest growing one would have the highest kind of contribution. And this would be almost like a quant or smart beta like product, similar to our first pass at it, which was the DMX token. So those are two ideas we have shared on our Medium, and we are still looking for feedback and talking to partners like our great friends at Relay. Nothing like this has been done so far, partly because it's very difficult. We thought it wouldn't be very difficult to build this because we looked at all the components and all the components were there. But when we tried to put it together, it didn't just instantly snap together like a bunch of Legos. It was actually that's where things start breaking. So we are working through those challenges. It's a very challenging but gratifying problem to work through, but we hope to overcome them and be able to launch some of these products in the coming year.
Awesome. Yeah, and another thing to note on too is, there are competitors in the space. There's other projects that have done index tokens, but we just launched our Solana token, SOLI, and as far as I know, that was the first index token to launch on a launchpad. There's challenges there because the index is fully backed by tokens. It's not like a traditional token launch where the token's essentially worthless on mint, and then it becomes worth something after the people do the IDO. We had to mint the token beforehand, so we're doing things that haven't been done before, and just the layer 1 token, we're learning from the stuff we've done in the past. So I guess any other questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand, or if someone on the stage has something.
I have one just more about the weighting. I know, I think it was James that briefly talked about it. So you're saying, just my own understanding, as a token gets hotter or more use, it gets weighted in the index further. And how does, how I guess I half understood that. I'd like to know a little bit more about how that's dynamically weighting and what that looks like.
I can go into this, James, if you would like. So the approach we took, as James mentioned, would be one more tailored towards TVL and specifically TVL growth. So if you could picture a month by month rebalancing index, so let's say rebalances once a month, you look at TVL on that date and compare and see which chains had the greatest amount of TVL growth. And kind of the thesis there would be that TVL growth as a percentage instead of a dollar amount would be a better leading indicator of price instead of market cap on its own. One of the problems with market cap right now, especially with L1 tokens, is it's so dominated by Ethereum. But if we look back at the most recent bull run of the last year, and a lot of that was carried by these new L1s popping up, the best way to identify those early would have been based off of the TVL growth, because obviously they're starting pretty small. As TVL comes pouring in, the percentage growth is so high compared to Ethereum. It would have been a better, we view that as more of a growth identifier versus strictly market cap, which would be a very just safe, broad exposure to every different protocol popping up right now.
So that's cool. I think I got it. So basically, literally, you're tracking the TVL being either a lagging, not even a lagging, like a forward-looking indicator towards price appreciation. Not always one for one, but of course a pretty good indicator. So as TVL on any given L1 climbs, then that's really am I following that? Because if that's the case, that's pretty cool. It's, I think, a very good indicator. Generally speaking, money talks and TVL talks.
Exactly. I think it's really just the best indicator you can have right now, given what data options exist of adoption on a chain. Market cap is really, the underlying price is dependent on the value of the underlying tokens, but market cap is very tied to the price of the tokens as well. So it's really just giving you an exposure with the TVL, the growth and the adoption, and tracking growing or shrinking adoption.
And another one of the issues, I'll call it, with using market cap is some of the layer 1 tokens, their first use case wasn't as the chain tokens. So things like BNB and now Chrono, there's a centralized exchange built from those, and now they just happened to build their own EVM layer. So most of the market cap derives from the centralized exchange and like the fee sharing there, not all tied to the ecosystem like Ethereum is, or AVAX or Phantom. Should we do some questions from the community, Korean?
That sounds like there are a bunch of questions in general and Twitter, of course.
So, where did you get the idea for the project's name? What does it signify to you? Why'd you pick this name for the project? I guess Haney would be the one for this one, but I assume it's something to do with the Twitter handle, because it's a 4-character Twitter handle. That's pretty rare.
Oh, that Twitter handle was acquired after, like, recently. It didn't start from there.
Oh, really? Do you know the
origin story?
Yeah.
The origin story is pretty simple. Haney's Egyptian, and Amun is the king of gods of ancient Egypt. I did some research on Egyptian mythology as part of my due diligence for this job. It's rather complicated. It's kind of like Amun is not a first-generation Egyptian god. Amun is like a second-generation layer 2 god. The first generation were like Ra and all those other guys. There's a bunch of them. And then there was a god merger, and Amun, I think, was the result of 2 like super OP gods that merged. But for a period, Amun was like the biggest god. So yeah,
interesting.
The most OP god.
People come for the crypto talk, they stay for the Egyptian history lesson.
And the Stargate.
I love how you just equated the inspiration for our brand as an L2 god.
Crypto guy. Well, okay, here's another question. What are some of the technical hurdles involved with building these index tokens? Jack, do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. It definitely varies from chain to chain. Solana, for example, obviously is a far more closed ecosystem than Ethereum is, just by, I guess, the nature of the ecosystem itself. So we had a lot of technical hurdles there in terms of integrating with, certain protocols, dexes. The ecosystem itself in Solana is starting to open up a lot more, which helped us out in the latter days while we were getting close to launch. And hopefully that trend starts to continue, because it'll just enable more people to build in the space rather than have to pick the pieces of the puzzle together yourself or having to rewrite certain functions. For the L1 token and like the total blockchain index, the biggest consideration for us technically is finding the right sources of liquidity. So that's obviously why we're looking to have a sort of a heavy reliance on different bridges, different forms of wrapped liquid tokens, trying to partner wherever we can to incentivize more liquidity on the chains that we want to target. So that's all to say, it definitely varies from project to project, token to token. But for the most part, building in crypto becomes a lot easier over time as the space opens up more, the collaborative efforts are more emphasized, and everybody's able to leverage each other's code bases and contracts that are on the chain to put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another one. Amun develops many products, which is an advantage when it comes to meet the needs of users. However, does developing many products make management difficult? How do you ensure the quality of Amun products? So this is something we definitely looked at recently when we have a DFI token on Ethereum, which we noticed had Ren Bitcoin in it during like right after rebalance, and the DFI token is like decentralized finance on Ethereum. So Bitcoin shouldn't be a part of it per our methodology, but the methodology takes data from CoinGecko, and Ren Bitcoin happens to be one of the coins on there. Yeah, like that's another, I guess, thing to think about when we try to build a totally smart contract based platform. There's always these little edge cases that we need to be aware of. Does anyone have anything to expand on that?
Yeah, I think we try to approach building all of our token products such that they can exist on their own and we never really have to touch it. Meaning we come up with a rock solid methodology backed by data, we turn it into code, and essentially our tokens are living and breathing, and they grow and fall with the rise and fall of ecosystems. And if they're built the right way, they require little intervention. That's not always the case, of course. We put a lot of effort behind making sure our contracts are upgradable such that any edge cases that arise, like the one Tyler just mentioned, we're able to respond appropriately and reconstruct the methodology to make it even better and more inclusive for the projects that we want to include for any given token. Yeah.
I might just add another thing, which is that I think when you have a large suite of products, you have to also be willing to curate and make like hard decisions if things are not performing well or aligned with what you're doing. One of the things that we will be announcing is the DMX token, our second token for Ethereum. We plan to sunset that product, given to the nature of the performance and the nature of the market. There will be more details coming in a blog, but I think we are open to creating a lot of new stuff, and we're open to being very objective about evaluating them as they perform in the real world. Of course, we'll provide all the proper support to help folks who are owners of that token. But if things do not align with our thesis, we are willing and able to wind them down so that our ultimate goal is to curate token products that really perform and help investors in this space.
That's another issue with Ethereum and index tokens is people would like to buy the token, but if you want to mint it yourselves, which we have the ability to on our website, it's like $30 per trade per token, and then it's got to send to the smart contract and then mint the index token and send to you. It's hundreds of dollars in gas fee, so it just prices out anyone that's not going to buy $10,000 plus or something like that. So that's why, again, we're really happy with Pico and SOLI, where they're on these very low cost blockchains, and definitely with the layer 1 token that we can build it not on Ethereum. So here's a question about StarLaunch. So why was StarLaunch chosen? When we did research on the launch pads for the Solana ecosystem, StarLaunch, there was many articles. Everyone's got an opinion on what's a good launch pad, what's not a good launch pad, but StarLaunch was consistently on like the list for the quality projects, and speaking to the team, you could definitely tell they knew what they were doing. And I really liked how they had a theme around their projects, which not many do. It's more 100% DeFi. The websites aren't pretty. They actually try to have a theme, and they were willing to work with us even though we had a specialized product. That's why we chose them. Why does the index token need a launch pad? So the index tokens don't need a launch pad, but we figured to start the buzz, we could offer the index token at a discount and then vest the tokens. So really, I guess the answer there is we don't need the launch pad, but it was a really good marketing thing and way to get holders up and get the word out, and then also a way to fundraise to get the liquidity added right away.
I think when joining a new chain like Solana, it's great to partner with someone that already has expertise and that already taps into that community. We are very open to partnerships. Our partnership with Polygon was very fruitful. So I think it was partly informed by that experience. It's like moving into neighborhood, knowing your neighbor. So StarLaunch very much was our neighbor heading to Solana.
Definitely. Korean, was there any additional questions from the Discord or Twitter?
Sure, there are quite a few on Twitter. There's a question, is there anything plan for the near future in terms of events, product releases, if there's anything we want to mention about that?
I think the only thing we have public right now is the Layer 1 token for sure. There's no set date for that. It'll be probably at least 2 months while we're working on it. There's some other tokens that definitely could be out faster, but
Okay.
I don't want to share anything.
Andromeda on Twitter asked, regular crypto investors struggle with the difficulty and complexity to interact with DeFi protocols. How does Amun reduce this difficulty?
So I think right now we're working on simplifying that process through our own platform. Obviously, we have worked on establishing liquidity on different DEXs, like everyone should be familiar with working in DeFi and participating in DeFi. But for people who are uncomfortable with, we are viewing our platform as an opportunity to own the experience of interacting with our tokens. And so through there, we're working on trying to simplify that for people who are potentially more novice to the crypto space, as well as working on getting our tokens on centralized exchanges, which obviously increase exposure and ease the on-ramps, which obviously recently happened with our BitMart listing of Pico.
Hey, what's up, guys? Just a related question to your last comment. So I heard you have a centralized exchange listing, and then your tokens are also traded on DEXs. That immediately leads me to wonder how you guys maintain your price peg with so many assets with variable weighting. I guess there's no easy way to calculate if it's the right price or not. So do you guys have like a auto arb function that you guys use to maintain that price compared to the underlying assets?
I guess I'll take it. Yeah, we do. On our website, so the price on our website can be different from obviously the price on a DEX versus a price on a centralized exchange, because the price on our website takes the value of all the underlying tokens divided by like the amount of outstanding tokens, and that's kind of the price, or it's slightly different than that. But anyway, it's basically the value of all the tokens that have been minted. And then the decentralized exchange, it's based on swaps. And that just naturally arbitrages itself because you can mint or burn the tokens for the price on our website. So if you can mint it for $5 on a website and sell it for $5 or $5.20 in the exchange, users would do that. And then as far as the centralized exchange, we actually created our own market maker. Like we have an in-house market maker that uses the data from our website to market make around. So that's how we keep the price on peg there.
Do you find that it happens pretty efficiently and pretty quickly once there is a disparity in the prices?
Actually, yeah. So with the Solana token, I basically market maked by hand for the first day. But now, if there's any change in price, there's just a bot that changes the price on Radium, like instantly. And it's actually funny because we don't, it's not us. So someone created a bot to do that, which is amazing. They take advantage of the arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, does it? Anytime someone finds an opportunity, they put up a bot to do something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so really it's been simple on our part because there's a natural arbitrage, so people take advantage of it.
I'd say it's simple on the various decentralized exchanges that our tokens operate on, just because we don't have to arb that ourselves all the time. There's plenty of market participants that help us out there. But on our platform, our pricing service is like our own in-house Web 2 service essentially, and it basically is just pulling a consortium of data from various data providers. Finding pricing data on chain is a surprisingly difficult issue in the space still, especially if you're operating with, for example, like our Polygon Chainlink, for example, is not really a solution we can leverage because they don't provide coverage for a lot of the underlying tokens that exist in our index. So it's an interesting problem we're constantly facing, working on to ensure that the pricing information that appears on our platform is as rock solid as what you'd find on a DEX or a centralized exchange. But it is in my opinion, a pretty interesting, somewhat solved, but still unsolved problem in crypto.
Cool.
Yeah, hey, cool. Thanks for the answers, guys. Very interesting. Have you ever thought about putting a ticker like at the top of your landing page with all of your prices of your indexes?
No, that's a great thought. Get that on the roadmap.
Oh no, I was gonna say I'll hopefully have that in shortly.
That one's free, guys.
Write that down. Write that down.
Hard to be.
Let's just give Jira access to Rico.
Cool. Any other questions from the people on stage? We could probably start wrapping up.
I have a question for Jack. Did you
Sure.
come from Rock?
Yes, I came from Blackrock.
Wow. Can you compare and contrast Blackrock and Amun, knowing that all the people in the chat are Blackrock people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like a completely different world. I worked in BlackRock's tech business for a few years, and building tech in a business as large as that with all the regulatory rigmarole and bureaucratic obstacles is difficult. Things move slowly, clients become unhappy often. It's tough. And for what it's worth, I spent a lot of time at BlackRock thinking about crypto and trying to internally propaganda other people to focus more on the space and focus some of our tech expertise toward support for certain crypto products. Jumping into Web3, my role here is really hardcore blockchain stuff, which is exactly what I wanted. We move super fast and we break things often, which is definitely goes to the heart of like the real Silicon Valley tech ethos, I think. But it's way more fun, way more exciting. Crypto itself is an ecosystem where people tend to test and prod and figure out, the details later. We definitely don't try to take that angle at Amun, but it is interesting examining the landscape and competitors and other projects that are building in the space and the challenges that they face trying to move quickly in the future of France really fast. It's definitely like two whole different worlds, and I think you'll see BlackRock come up in the news on like CoinDesk or the Defi, big crypto news sources every now and then. And it's funny, like it's stuff that we were talking about 5 years ago at BlackRock that is barely coming to fruition now. And it's big and newsworthy because anytime BlackRock wants to do anything in the crypto space, people get excited about it. For all intents and purposes, they're really moving very slowly and completely missing the beat, in my opinion.
It's really hard to move fast when you have an existing line of business that makes money. The motivation to go do the new thing is just not. It's fundamentally incentives driven, right? If you're like 3 people working on crypto and you don't have an existing business, you just spend 100% of your attention there. If you're 10,000 people with billions of dollars of revenue coming through elsewhere, it's really just like from an organizational perspective, impossible to drop everything and focus on the new thing, no matter how much you might think the new thing is the real thing. It's fascinating, I find, how big companies respond to this new stuff.
Cool. It's been about 50 minutes. You guys want to wrap up?
Sure. We got any more? Korean, your call. Any particular questions you want to highlight?
One question that's come up on Twitter in general is, do we have people are talking about NFTs and how popular they are? I think, James, you've answered this in the past, an idea about a NFT index or something along those lines.
Yeah, NFT indexes, people seem to want this a lot. It's hard to say exactly what this should take. Partly, I think NFTs are a little bit, despite their popularity, still a little bit early because other than a few blue chips, what has value comes and goes. So building an index is difficult. And of course, NFTs are non-fungible by nature. And indexes mostly have been using fungible tokens. So I think at some point there will be likely a product there that makes sense. But my personal take is it seems a little bit challenging and early at this moment in time. And maybe the opportunity is not the largest at this moment in time. But that's my take. This is not like company view. I think other folks here who are more into NFTs, Tyler is literally an ape, has maybe other on this.
I'm a human, not an ape. Yeah, it's definitely, obviously people love NFTs. If you go on Twitter, it's even on the news, how much they talk about this, but it's just, there's been other projects that have tried, but haven't had success. Something that would have to be done carefully.
That sounds good.
Is there one more, Korean, that will be done?
From Twitter, is it like any other tokens, or will the value be strictly pegged to the underlying assets? So I guess this was asked on StarLaunch as well, are the value of the tokens strictly pegged to the underlying assets?
I guess I would say yes. Of course, like we mentioned before, the price can differ on every exchange that it's on, since they all have their own order book or their own liquidity model. But you can always go to the website and mint or burn the price, or mint or burn the token from the price on the website. So yeah, I would say the underlying value is just the constituents.
Yeah, for any genre that's an index token, this is basically true. I guess if we do any product in the future that is not specifically just a constitution of existing stuff, that could be different. But right now, the formula is yes.
Yeah, I guess maybe the question was geared like towards Ohm, where it's the value is the treasury, but plus future value in the treasury, and it's not fully backed like ours are. You can go in and out anytime. There's a locked aspect to it. So yeah, I guess the answer is right now it's 100% backed. But cool. All right. Thank you all for joining I think it's the first ever Meet the Team. Probably have another one in the future. Any questions, feel free to post here on Discord or Telegram, and be sure to follow our Twitter. We'll be posting stuff on Medium regularly. That's about it.
Weekend, folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.